Greetings everyone, and welcome to Keeping Up with Papa Life After Work, where we learn how one man manages to keep himself busy, physically active, and mentally engaged after retirement with projects. Today's project was time to do some service work on the Jeep. It's really just an oil change and a tire rotation. However, something else popped up, a third item, and that is that we need to change out the yaw rate sensor. What? Check it out. Now it's done already. Now it's done already. Nothing. That's 6. There's a sensor. It was just an easy plug-in. Welcome back, and as I stated earlier, it's time to do a little bit of maintenance on the Jeep. I change out the oil and I rotate the tires every 5,000 miles without fail. And I do it on the 5,000 mile mark because it's easy to keep track of. 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles, 15,000 miles. Well, in this case, just the other day I hit 290,000 miles, and that's on the 5,000 mile mark. So it's time to do that little bit of maintenance work. And normally, changing the oil wouldn't be something where I would actually do an episode for Keeping Up with Papa. But in this case, at the same time, I learned I needed to change out this yaw rate sensor. Now, it's done already, but I'm going to walk you through how I did it. It was actually pretty simple. And I'm also going to walk you through why I did it, which is definitely worth a little bit of a discussion. Let's get started. The Jeep is lifted, so I don't really need to do anything special to be able to get underneath it to change the oil. But to rotate the tires, I put all 4 wheels up off the ground and do the thing as a whole, kind of like it's in the shop. Gotta get these guys down and jack up the Jeep. That's the first time I've ever done that. Jacking up the Jeep, not much to it. I don't know if you're supposed to jack up by the pumpkin, but I've been doing it on this Jeep since it was new in 2008 with no damage. So I'm going to continue to do that. The older I get, the less I enjoy this. Alright, those 3 tires off the ground. Left front tire, I can pick it up by the pumpkin. Right front tire I have to move over a little bit, since the differential is not centered on the front of the vehicle. To get room, I have no choice but to jack it up on the axle tube. These are pretty heavy duty, so I don't really worry about it. Alright. Gloves are on. See if we can get this off. There you go. Pretty simple. Engine's been warmed up a little bit. This oil is going to be warm but not hot. Woo! Boy, that came close to missing that pan. Alright, let's let that drain and get on with our other work. While the oil's draining, let's get the tires taken care of. $19mm socket. Typically I use air. I have air here, but I bought this recently and it's a little easier to deal with. I do have to be careful with it because it's pretty strong. I don't want to break a lug nut. And by the way, after years of using those factory lug nuts that would strip out, the covers that were on them would come off, I finally ordered a billet, and these work much better. No issues with these at all since I put them in. I bought this Jeep new in 2008, and I've always done a 5-tire rotation. A lot of people just do 4, but I like all 5 of my tires to wear out at the same time. It just makes a whole lot more sense to me. So I start by removing the rear tire. It goes to the right rear goes to the right front goes to the left rear goes to the left front comes to the back. I've done that exactly like that since 2008. These tires are heavy. These are 34-inch. I used to run 35s, and I decided this last time around when I changed tires to go with 34s. These are Falcon RTs, which I am thrilled with. The best off-road tire I've ever used without going to a mud tire. But they're heavy, okay? The 35s are even a little bit heavier, so what I end up doing is cheating a little bit, giving myself a head start, and setting this on the bumper. This is something I do not look forward to. It reminds me that I'm, no longer am I 16 years old, or 18, or even 30 for that matter. Alright, here we go. A lot of fun. Sweet, one done. Now, with all the tires off, is the best time to do any kind of inspection that needs to be done. Pads are pretty new, so they are actually in excellent shape. No issue there. Rock. Don't see anything with the brake lines. One of my biggest issues is typically these sensor lines. They get pinched or cut. And I am throwing a sensor code every now and then, so one of these wires somewhere has a short or a ground issue. Discs look great, good shape. I think we can put the tire back on this one. As I've made it abundantly clear, I am no longer 18 years old, and picking this tire up and lining it up is not my favorite thing to do. So I will get it lined up here, kind of in place. And then I'm going to use a cheater bar. slip this crowbar underneath, ride it up on it, lever it up into place. So much easier. Now this gun is capable of breaking off a lug. So I'm just snugging it down because I don't want to get it too tight, because this could in fact snap a lug off. And I'll be coming back at it with a torque wrench when the whole process is done. This is also the time that I check out my front end. Now I have a unique, somewhat unique front end tie rod and drag link on here, and ball joints. These are from Terraflex. And these ball joints are adjustable and greasable, meaning that I can pop this cap off and come in here and grease this ball joint from the bottom. And also, if it loosens up too much, and this one is walking the edge, I can back off a couple of Allen head screws and spin this item right here, this piece right here, with a special tool and tighten it up. Now, a front end guy would say that's really bad. From my perspective, once I grease it, typically it gets a lot better. So let's try that first. In talking to Terraflex previously, these things pretty much never wear out. And as long as you grease them, you don't really have to adjust them. Now, I'm hoping this tool works. Oh my God, it's not going in there. Is it? Nope. Great. I got this fancy chuck. Chuck won't go in and grab it. Well, that's not good, because I need to do it now while the tire's off, particularly on this end over here. Do I have another grease gun? Let me go see. So the answer is no, I do not have another grease gun. So this will be a job for later in the week. I'll do it one side at a time, pull the tire off, and grease these up. And if I need to adjust them, I'll probably have an opportunity to do that before I edit. So now my hope is, well, A, that this tip actually fits in there, and B, that historically for me, by greasing these, they tighten back up quite a bit. I hate having to do the other process. Let's get that out of there. I'm sure you're well aware you don't have to lock that down onto the fitting every time. Yeah, it's plenty right there. I don't really think that made a whole lot of difference. Let's go down and do the other end also. Well, here's where life gets complicated. Okay, right now I don't have any of the tires off. To get to that one, the tire has to come off. To get to both of these, the tire has to come off. Aha. Okay, you can't see it, but I can. The bellows over here is filling. I don't like to grease it so heavily that grease comes out from the bellows there, but it did. That means we've got plenty inside. You can see here the Allen screws. And you just back those off, and you've got a tool that you spin this with. I don't think I need to do that. I mean, this is, right now, by the way, I have turned this very tight, so I'm going to re-grease this one. Terraflex has told me in the past that once I've set these up, I really don't need to do it again. And they are set up perfectly. Basically tighten them as tight as you can get them. That's good, that bellows was expanding. So anyway, you tighten them as tight as you can get them, then you back off until you can set these, and these go into little holes on the inside, and they lock into place. There are guide holes in there. So once you've done it, you've done it. I've had this set for, oh gosh, 120,000 miles anyway. And just by greasing them regularly, they seem to do fine. Driver's side drag link, I had already greased this one, and it had a little bit of excess grease coming out through the bellows there. Driver's side tie rod, I watched it just kind of pump up as I pumped it. And so the result is now that this is much tighter. It's where it really should be. This is also much tighter, but it's a little more loose than I might like. However, at the risk of repeating myself, when I had spoken to Terraflex about this a couple of years ago, they said, you want it loose. You don't want it to be super snug. There's really not any play left or right or up or down in this at all. There's just not. There's none. It just kind of moves a bit. Again, a front end guy might not like that, but it doesn't bother me at all, and it drives just great now that it's greased. And this, by the way, this is a tool that's used to tighten these. It's got these 4 little nubs on it. They go into 4 holes that are there on this, on the bottom. I don't think you can see them. Probably covered up by the cap. And then you use a ratchet and just turn it after you've backed off these Allen head screws. And there are, I think, 4 of those. Yeah, 2 on each side. It's a pretty ingenious little system, and like I said, this one's, I don't know, I got 200,000 miles on it, or close to it anyway. And it's original, still doing fine. Oil filter is right there. This is always a little bit messy because it drips, it pours out and goes down, usually into the pan, but it also hits the axle and spills in multiple directions. Let's see if we can get that broken loose. This thing is put on hand tight, usually comes off. Not bad, this one's coming right off. Old filter. All right. That was easier than I anticipated. And everything is buttoned up, all 4 tires are back on, and I have put the plug back in the oil pan. Believe it or not, this engine takes 6 quarts of oil, 5W20. I usually buy whatever's on sale. I'm not all that concerned about it because it gets changed every 5,000 miles. This time it was on sale with an STP filter, so I was happy about that. Okay, let's get that filter back on. Everybody tells you to put a light coating of oil on the gasket on the filter, and I did. And all I got to do is find that spot. There it is. Alright, this is really not hard at all. Hand tight is sufficient. Ready for oil. 6 quarts, typically I will pour in 5. And then with that 6th one, I will put in about half of that. And then start the engine and run it for a bit. And then come back and start checking the oil level. Recently, I actually had the service work done at a Take 5, I think it was, or one of those oil change places. And they put too much oil in it. They said they put the 6 quarts in. And when I checked it, it was way too high on the stick. So I went back and I had them redo it and base it on the stick and not on the spec. And after that, it worked out great. So that was 5 right there. I do about half a bottle. Crank her up and see what happens. Alright, engine ran for about 2 minutes. It's warmed up now. We should have plenty of engine oil inside the filter, so we'll get a more accurate reading about what's in the engine oil pan. So it's an interesting discussion I had with the tech at the oil change place when I had too much oil in there. I discovered that he was checking the oil with the engine running. Well, when the engine's running, you have all this oil up inside the engine. You're not actually reading when you pull the stick you're only reading what's in the pan at that time. When you let the engine shut off and the oil drains back down, you get a different reading from that. He swore that that's what he was taught to do. I went online and double checked it, and I have always done it the other way. I waited until the engine's dropped and turned off and sat for a minute or two, and then get an accurate oil reading. So I think that's where a lot of his excessive oil in the engine that he was putting in was coming from. All right, right now I am on the slightly, right at the center of the mark, maybe a little bit below it. So I think I can go ahead and put in the rest of that quart. Yeah, I'm right in the middle. I don't think there's any harm in putting the rest of the quart in. I'll go ahead and do that. As I'm sure you're well aware, you can put too much oil in an engine. That will cause premature death for an engine. That should get me up near the top of the mark. These engines do consume a little oil. This one was put in new or rebuilt probably at 197,000 miles. So it's really only got, well, it's 190 now, so it's just under 100, 80 to 93,000 miles on it. So it's still young. I am at the top of the hash marks. Good. I think that's great. That'll work fine. While I'm here, might as well check the other three important fluids. One is coolant, the reservoir. Yeah, that's a little bit low. Washer fluid is about halfway. If I've got some, I'll put that in. Brake fluid. Brake fluid really couldn't be any better. It's right at this mark, and that's just below the max line. So, great on brake fluid, no issue there. You know, maybe somebody out there knows the answer to this. I've been using just the regular yellow stuff in here for years. Mopar or Chrysler likes you to use the red color. Does it matter, really, all that much? All right, it's time now. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, the yaw rate sensor. A little backstory for you. A few months back, I was driving and pulling up to, I guess, a traffic light, and I hit the brakes, and the brakes went to the floor. Nothing happened at all. You know, mild panic, pumped them up a few times, popped right back, they were working fine. No dash lights, no issue, just brakes went to the floor. Well, I figured I'm going to have it looked at, but I'll drive it for a while and see if it happens again. Sure enough, about 2 or 3 weeks later, it happened one more time. This time I went on a long trip, it's about 150 miles away, and it didn't happen until I got all the way down to my destination and went to the floor. On the way back, it happened at least 5 times coming back. I figured out how to drive it. It only happened at low speed or when I had been at an idle, like if I'm working in a parking lot, for example, or I was kind of idling at a light somewhere or coasting up to light after having idled. It was strange, the symptoms that would cause this to happen or the conditions that would cause it to happen. Anyway, driving home on the highway, the superhighway on the I-75, it was not an issue at all. It worked just fine. And I kept my distance all the way between me and the person in front of me in case I had to do something, you know, to correct an issue that came up. Every time I did fail, pumping the brakes 3 or 4 times would bring it back up. So I took it to my local shop, who does most of my mechanical work on the Jeep that I cannot do. About a week and a half later, I was on a trip. They called me and said, well, you have codes that say 2 things. One, your ABS system is failing in some fashion, and your yaw rate sensor is not working properly. I said, well, what do we do? They said, well, you need to make a choice. We can replace all these items, or we can replace them one at a time and see which one corrects the problem. I said, well, you know, basically that means we're just going to throw parts at it until we fix it. He says, at this point, I have no choice. I have a code that says it's bad, but I have no way of knowing for sure if it is or not. I said, fine, start with the yaw rate sensor. And I was gone for a week, and then another week after that, maybe a little bit longer. He finally called me back and says, I cannot get the part. I said, why? He said, well, it's just my suppliers don't have the part. And I've been trying, they say they have it, but then they don't when I go and order it. So you're just going to have to pick the Jeep up and find the part yourself. I said, okay, fine. So I brought it back. I was online for about 10 minutes. I found the part at a Chrysler dealer, exactly the same part, with exactly the same part number on it. Ordered that, took about 10 days to get here, and I installed it yesterday. Now, what exactly is a yaw rate sensor? So a yaw rate sensor has got to do with your anti-skid system on the vehicle. It talks to the computer, it talks to the ABS system, and it lets you know when you're moving this way or this way or this way or this way in a fashion that you shouldn't be, related to how the wheels are turning. There are sensors, ABS sensors on the wheels as well. So somehow or another it's tied to all that, and this was failing. Now, how that causes the pedal to go to the floor, I have absolutely no idea. Usually that's a result of there being air in the lines or a bad master cylinder. Well, there was no air in the lines, and the master cylinder was replaced probably 9 months ago, so I knew it was good. And there was a code saying this was bad, so this is where we started. So yesterday I installed it. It only took me about 15 minutes. Since then, two things have happened. One is that when I drive it now, the pedal feels much more normal. There's less softness to the pedal. It feels the way it felt when I bought it when it was brand new. So I'm really happy about that. So maybe this did have something to do with it. It was soft before. And I don't have any Christmas tree lights. Christmas tree lights that come on are typically related to the ABS system and specifically to the wheel sensors. If the Christmas tree lights come on and you can't make your cruise control work, it's an ABS sensor. I've learned that through experience. When the lights were coming on before, the cruise control worked just fine, so that told me it was not an ABS wheel sensor. Instead, it was something else, which points to this guy perhaps. Yesterday I did have the Christmas tree lights come on for about 30 seconds. I was on the dirt road running through a bunch of water, and I kind of think that was sensor related on one of the wheels because the cruise control would not come on at the same time, which tells me it's a sensor problem. I've driven it about 45, 50 miles over the last 24 hours. Never had an issue with the brakes. I've tried to simulate every single condition I could think of that caused it to fail previously. No problem with the brakes. They lock up just fine. You hit them on the dirt road, the ABS kicks in, you can feel it chattering. I don't know. Is it fixed? Can't say. Let me show you how I put it in. So this sensor is located at the back end on the floor of the center console. If you've ever taken out a center console, it's a nightmare. But in this case, it was really simple. There are 4 Torx head screws, one here, a second on the driver's side back here, and duplicates on the other side. You just remove those 4 screws, and in this case I was able to just lift this whole box up, and that sensor is basically in the center about this far back. Very easy to reach. It took a ratchet and a socket to unscrew it, and I pulled it off, and of course I unplugged all the electricals on it first. Also, one important point, I disconnected the battery first. Anytime you're doing something with electronics on the vehicle, you need to disconnect that battery because a hot plug can cause a short in a unit like that. There's the sensor. It was just an easy plug and play to get it in and out. So I mounted the new one, plugged it in, dropped this back down into place, went and hooked the battery up and cranked it, and it worked just fine, and I had no Christmas tree lights. That was a good sign. At that point I buttoned all this back up and took it for a drive. Now, it will easily be several weeks before I get around to editing and releasing this video. In that period of time, I will drive this as much as possible and see if my issue comes back. If it does come back, it will go back to the local shop. They're prepared to get the necessary components to repair the rest of the ABS system. They say those parts are available. I left one thing off, and that is when you first hook this yaw sensor up, you have to tune it to the computer on board the Jeep. Well, now I found out from the mechanic that there are 2 ways to do that. One is you take it to them, they have the computer equipment, or you take it to the dealer and they hook it up and do all that for you. Or in some cases, and there's maybe a 50-50 chance that this will work, there's a process you go through that lets the yaw sensor and the computer learn each other. I tried that first, and that consists of turning the Jeep on, starting it up, turning it full right or full left, turning it the other direction all the way, and doing that 3 times. Well, I did it 4, and then I turned the Jeep off. I then drove it. No Christmas tree lights. Since then, it's been about 3 weeks, and I've driven it a little bit over 300 miles so far. No Christmas tree lights, no problem with the pedal going all the way down to the floor. So far, it's working flawlessly. One thing I've avoided doing over this period of time is hooking up the new trailer, which uses trailer brakes, to the Jeep, because I was a little concerned that if I did get into trouble, I'd have all the weight of the tractor back there, and that would make life a lot more complicated trying to stop it if there was a failure of some sort. So this morning is the first time I have done that, and everything again just worked flawlessly, no problem at all. Is it fixed? I think maybe it is. If it's not, if something happens in the next few weeks that makes me think it's not fixed, I'll put a note in the comments. All right, that's it. Another project completed. Please remember to hit that subscribe button, and well, I'll see you next time on Keeping Up with Papa Life After Work.